Joining us more to talk about this, somebody who knows what it takes to campaign in Florida and has been through his share of campaigns, former Republican Congressman Mark Foley. Welcome to the anchor desk here. It's so good to see you. We went to Congress together, and here we are now on the outside looking in, but with some perspective. Tell me what's going on in this gubernatorial race.
First, probably one of the most expensive races. Well over $100 million each side. The negativity has not only turned people off, but has really dragged what was a popular guy, Charlie Crist, to an even tie with Scott. That's remarkable, because Charlie, had he stayed and run for governor before, would have won in a walkaway. He was a very popular Republican governor, but he's been on 3 different teams already, so people look at him suspiciously. Does he have any credibility?
You know, I was fascinated by the election process here in Florida as a new Florida voter. Kind of interesting. I went down and did my early voting, and the whole notion of hanging chads, all that has gone away, new technology, and really a very impressive way to deal with ballots and, to me, ballot security. But when push comes to shove, this race is so close. In this gubernatorial campaign, might we see a recount like we saw in the 2000 presidential race?
You were here on the ground in 2000. It was hanging chads. It was decided in Palm Beach County. Al Gore made the mistake of saying, let me just count selective counties. What's going to happen here is it is going to be a squeaker. I predict it will be Scott by a whisker, but there'll be recounts, there'll be acrimony, there'll be legal challenges. We will see a repeat of 2000.
Now, this is interesting when you take a look at the tactics of the left. As I understand it, the night of the election, the DNC, and I had a very highly placed source that I'm not going to reveal, but when all the talk started, the DNC had a plane load of lawyers here on the ground in that 2000 presidential election. They brought in nationwide to focus here on Florida. It seems to me you're saying that they've got their legal team together, and maybe both sides do. They're prepared for a challenge no matter the outcome of what happens next Tuesday night.
No question. And one of the surprising things is they placed medical marijuana on the ballot at the behest of Charlie Crist's employer, John Morgan. They thought that would drag or drive turnout spectacularly in the liberal quarter. Turnout's going to be anemic. Democrats are fearful, and that's why I think Scott has this election. When you ask people who they support, they may say Crist or they may say Scott. When you ask who's likely to win, it tips to Scott's favor. Still think it's going to be within the margin of error, which draws the parallel of 2000, recounts, acrimony, street protests.
Well, as we deal with that scenario, and it's a graphic memory that most of us have, in the minute and a half that remains in this segment, Mark Foley, let me shift back to the electoral process itself. Now, I did my early voting. I was impressed with the infrastructure there, but the whole notion of voting by mail, is there still an opportunity for voter fraud here in the Sunshine State?
Without question. Anytime you do not have to personally identify the voter, it can be received in the home, it can be voted by someone else, it can be voted by an illegal. We know this to be true. Republicans aren't simply trying to keep voters' suppression away or voters from the poll. We want accurate votes. We want real, live citizens registered to vote to be able to cast their vote. There is no question there is room for fraud.
And I think it's important to note, because given these political terms of art, how they're used in debate, again, it's not voter suppression, but it's making sure that eligible voters are the ones voting, not somebody who has no business voting in an election, not somebody stealing identity, nor someone who is not a citizen. That is the ultimate problem here. Mark, we've spent a lot of time on the gubernatorial race. Tell you what, I'm going to ask you to stay right here with me on the anchor desk as we return to, metaphorically speaking, to Capitol Hill, where we spent a dozen years. Mark Foley continues with his insights and analysis. We'll talk about the Senate and congressional midterms next, as America's Forum continues here on Newsmax TV.